Hello and welcome to this edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. We have a wonderful lineup just for you. Do stay tuned. It all unfolds right after this break.
I remember we had a case where the client reported that a particular member of staff at a facility sent information to our community that she's at the facility accessing HIV care. The news got to our community while she was sitting in the waiting area, and when she attempted to deny it, the person who messaged her about it sent her a picture of her sitting on the bench in the waiting area to say, see it there, you can't tell me, say you're not up there. These breaches of confidentiality are barriers to people coming forward. Just imagine the next person from that community who find out that they have HIV and they remember what happened to Mary, they are not going. And then that is why you find people stay away from the well-needed health care, and then sometimes we stay on the sidelines and think they are just evil people who wants to go and spread HIV to everybody else. And we are not aware of these challenges that they face.
Breach of confidentiality is not just one other issue facing HIV and AIDS victims. It's a big one. And we play a part with our continued discrimination and lack of empathy. Let's treat everyone with the dignity we want for ourselves. Stop discrimination and be our brother's keeper.
Whether young or old, we could all learn a thing or two about fire safety. And if you already know, a refresher is always good. It's time to get the facts. Let's join in on the conversation.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Fire safety is a critical concern for every household and business place in Jamaica, and neglecting this can lead to devastating consequences. Today we aim to raise awareness about the importance of fire prevention and share practical tips on how we can all protect ourselves from the threat of the flame. Joining us is the Deputy Commissioner in charge of fire prevention at the Jamaica Fire Brigade, JFB, Sean Martin. He's here to discuss with us and to provide us that essential information on how to safeguard our homes and our business. Sir Martin, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
All right, let's jump right into getting some facts here. All right, I'll tell you what I've experienced. Listening to the news, every now and then you hear that this person was burned out. Sometimes it even involves children being home alone. Please tell us, what's the most common cause of home fires in Jamaica?
All right, so two of the most common causes of home fires in Jamaica are one, careless use, and two, electrical. I'll just try and elaborate a little bit.
Sure.
When you say careless use, you're talking about candles being used, you talk about faulty stove being used, you talk about left it cooking unattended. When you talk about electrical, you talk about an electrical short circuit, you talk about when persons have illegal connection of electricity, and also when persons try to bridge their electricity, and when you have overload in circuit.
Right.
So these are the main categories in which we have residential fires.
Oh, God. One to business fires, because you specified residential a while ago.
Business fires most times occur from processes which would have gone wrong inside the establishment, because naturally most businesses would have maintenance program for the electrical equipment and the electrical system.
Right.
But generally, sometimes when the process goes bad, that's when you have our persons don't adhere to the procedures.
I want us to talk some more about that, but before, let's go back to the homes, because you mentioned that the businesses often have procedures, and I assume there's a standard.
Right.
But homes, we just kind of live in there.
Right.
You know, the average home have a smoke alarm or a fire extinguisher. So what does the average home do?
All right, so that is something that the Jamaica Fire Brigade has been pushing to have, to encourage persons to install smoke alarms inside their house, because smoke alarms are not very expensive and they give early warning, so it allows persons to get out.
Okay.
Because the majority of our fire death occurs at night within the homes. And most times it's because persons are sleeping.
Ah.
The smoke from the fire will tend to put you into a deeper sleep. But if you have smoke alarm, the alarm will give you an early warning and it will wake you.
Lot of noise. So you mentioned that they're not expensive.
No.
But do they need to be maintained, smoke alarms?
Yes, they need to be maintained. So when I think, but these smoke alarms these days are mainly smart devices, and they do a lot of maintenance check themselves.
Oh.
By the light emitting from the smoke alarm, it tells you whether the battery is low. It tells you whether it needs to be cleaned. It tells you whether it needs to be replaced. And there's a simple button that you just push to test it to ensure that the sound is emanating from it.
Okay, so the device itself most likely will give you a sort of maintenance time frame.
Right, by just looking at it, the light emitting from it tells you whether or not it needs to be maintained. But we recommend that you check them at least once per month, but also check the manufacturer's instruction, and that will tell you like how often you check your batteries and how often do you need to replace them.
Got it.
Because generally we say once per year for you to check the battery, but if you have lithium-ion battery, these last up to 10 years.
Cool. All right, so smoke alarm, let's put that as number one. What other maybe top 2 fire prevention tips you'd give to the average household?
Have a fire extinguisher inside your household.
Okay.
And know how to use it.
Oh.
Because a lot of persons have the extinguishers, but they don't know how to use it. It's very important to understand that.
So can I test a fire extinguisher and use it again?
Not recommended. Normally the CO2 can give you more than one use, but normally a fire extinguisher is a one-time use.
Oh.
But there's a maintenance program for it, and some of them carries a gauge, and the gauge will tell you whether it is fully charged or whether it needs to be serviced.
Okay. Have a fire extinguisher. What about a fire escape plan?
That is a very important thing that most household persons don't practice. It is very important for us to have a fire escape plan within our household. And the fire escape plan actually tells family members what to do in the event of an emergency. So we recommend that you develop the plan, you practice the plan.
Yeah.
And one I think in developing the plan you want to ensure that you do is have the floor plan layout for your house, and for members of your family know the various escape routes.
Right.
One of the key factors in an escape plan is where do we meet afterwards. And I tell you why it's important.
Yes.
Most times, in an emergency, if you don't have that, where do we meet? When persons get out, persons will act on impulse and try to get some things done. So somebody might get out and decide they're going to run to their neighbors to get something. Other members come out, don't see them, go back inside to look for them. They are already outside.
Right.
So it is important for you to be accounted for, so your family members can know that you got out okay before you make any move to get assistance. You must be accounted for first.
Wow, you just gave us something very important. I can't see how that happened. I can't find Poochie, try to get back in, suffer. Okay.
So you designate a meeting place. We'll meet at the mango tree in the back of the yard. We meet in front of the neighbor's gate, because depending on the size of your plot, your land, determines whether you can have a assembly point on your premises or whether you need to make one off premises.
Right.
Because some of the houses, your borders are so close. If you have a fire inside your house, you don't want to be staying inside that premises.
Because it might.
Right. You want to actually get outside. So you should evaluate your situation and determine what's best suits your plan. But we recommend you have a plan.
Got it. And I'd like to underline that thing you said, that it must be practiced, because I can imagine a young child or even somebody that's particularly excitable, you're in the moment when things burning down, you're not really thinking so clearly.
Right.
So the practice kicks in.
And that is where it brings efficiency, because you know the more often you do something, you get more efficient at it.
Right.
So if you practice a drill, you get more efficient of it. You get familiar with the route that you should get out of the house. So you know the routes and you know what the alternatives are. And then you practice, we recommend you practice at night so you understand how to get out during the dark.
And you can't see.
And one other thing that you practice, we will tell you that you should try and keep low, reason being smoke and hot gases rises. So at the lower part, there will always be fresher air. So you don't try stand up, try crawling on your hands and your knees, because you'll be breathing fresher air. You're less likely for the smoke to get into your system, because it will always rise.
Got it.
So the practice will do all of those things. You identify what are the challenges in your space, whether or not your exit route is blocked with things that should not be there. When you practice the drill, you pick that up.
Got it. I want to ask you something about that, but we're going to go to a break real quick. We're talking fire safety and prevention, and please stay with us.
So, Bonnie, you renew your road license yet?
Babes, the road have me away. I can't even find time, but you know money for me.
Because see, I shall out them money the back for late fee and record fee when you sit down make your road license expire upon you.
Well, transport authority so we can apply online. And that me I go to know.
Operators of public passenger vehicles and commercial carriers, renew your road license before April 1 and avoid late penalty. A message from the Transport Authority.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're looking at the importance of fire prevention and ways we can all safeguard ourselves. And with us is Deputy Commissioner in charge of Fire Prevention at the Jamaica Fire Brigade, JFB, Sean Martin. Sir Martin, the last thing we had spoken about was staying low.
Right.
Because the hot gases rise up or the smoke rises towards the ceiling. So you stay low, you get more fresh air down there. And that leads me to that question. What should somebody do? In addition to that, if you are trapped inside a burning building?
All right, so if you're trapped in a burning building, one thing that we encourage you not to do, which is very difficult, is not to get panicked.
Mm-hmm. Yes, can
because
imagine.
When you get panicked, you start to breathe very hard and you start to use up the oxygen around you more.
Right.
So it's like, less panic you are, then you will have more here to breathe for a longer period of time. Mm-hmm. Try to stay visible. And then try call for help. So if you happen to have your cell phone with you, try and call for help. Or if you can hear persons on the outside, you can actually shout to let them know that where you are. So they'll hear the voice and they'll have an idea as to where you are. If you can go to the bathroom, you can turn the pipe on. And if you have towels, you can wet the towel, and you can wrap yourself with that wet towel and keep the pipe on, because the water will give you some fresh air, some fresh oxygen. And if you're in the bathroom, try and close the door. Because when you close the door, what you'll actually do is you're preventing the fire from coming into the bathroom. You're delaying the time in which, because the door will give you a break.
A fire break,
right.
Okay.
But of course, you should always be familiar with your surrounding. So you're always going to try and figure your way out. And it's only if you can't get out, then you'll resort to the information that was just presented, because the first instance is to try and get out. Sure. Now, what we encourage persons to do, you should always check the door before you try and open the door. And when you check the door with the back of your hand instead of your palm.
So you grab it.
Right. So if it is hot, if you touch it with the back of your hand, you will automatically move away. From the door. But if you hold on to it with the middle of your hand, you tend to hold on to that door. So one thing that you're checking the door for is for heat, or for if it is electrically charged, because you never know. So you do that, and if the door is not hot, then you know that you can actually open that door and you can try and get out. But you should always be down on the floor so you can get constant fresh air.
Fresh air. All right. I wanna skip over to the business side of things. We've been talking largely about homes. So business owners.
Right.
What advice do you have for them?
All right. If you have a business, one of the first things we encourage you to do is to conduct a risk assessment. What are the major risks to fire inside my business?
Is this required by law?
It is required by law.
Okay.
Then after you do your risk assessment, you develop a business continuity plan. And the business continuity plan will tell you how you will respond to the various kind of emergency that your business will face, in terms of fire, in terms of hurricane, in terms of earthquake. It will guide you as to and inform your employees as to the evacuation routes, where to meet, and how to conduct themselves. The fire department offers safety monitor training, so what we do, we recommend that businesses train people within the workspace to be safety monitors. These people constantly conduct risk assessment of the risk within the business environment, and they come up with measures to mitigate against these risks. The plan will actually inform who is responsible for doing what. So who is responsible for calling the fire department, who is responsible for getting the nurse, if you have a nurse on property, who is responsible to conduct the head count, who is responsible to coming out with the fire extinguishers. So we recommend that you do the risk assessment, you develop your business continuity plan, you develop your emergency disaster management plan, and as I said, the risk assessment will inform the hazard that you actually face.
Right. And just like the homeowners, you got to drill.
Right, so you create your evacuation route, that's part of it. And as I said before, your safety monitors will inform that. And then when you go outside, you conduct a roll call, because when you have 3 or 4 persons living in a house and you can say, hey, all 4 persons are accounted for. In a business, you can have hundreds or thousands of employees, so you have to do a roll call. So you should know who should have the register to conduct the roll call to ensure that each employee is accounted for.
Yes.
We encourage businesses to also have employees clearly notify when they are going out on time. So if you seek some time to leave the premises, you should be accounted for. Don't break out at the workplace, because if there's an emergency and you're not accounted for, people will go looking for you.
Right. Got it. All right, so in the larger sense, I'm beginning to sense that, okay, so the fire brigade has that responsibility in terms of dealing with fires. But is there any responsibility that communities have in terms of fire prevention, especially in hard-to-reach places?
Yes, and it is something, so when in hard-to-reach communities, like you know where the fire stations are, and if you live in a community where it will take an inordinate long time for the fire department to get there, you need to be more fire aware. So we encourage the community groups or your neighborhood watches to actually do an evaluation of the risk. So if you see somebody slashing and burning to clear land, then it's something that you discourage them from doing. We encourage schools and churches in these communities to invite the fire department in to conduct training of its community members and to give talks on fire prevention measures and how you can do that. We encourage the schools to actually, because we have a very active fire safety clubs in schools. So for these rural communities, the fire department will be very much interested in trying to activate these clubs within these schools so that the children can be more aware of the dangers that fire poses to life and property and how to mitigate against these. We recommend that you invite us to your community neighborhood meetings, to your church groups, so that we can actually do presentation and heighten the awareness of the citizens. And you keep an active lookout as to the risk associated with fires, and you dissuade members of the community from engaging in these high-risk events.
Right. You say invite her, that's just pick up the phone, call the fire brigade?
Just pick up the phone, call the fire department, the fire prevention unit, which is the unit. So basically, we have a fire safety prevention and investigation unit. That's the unit that I'm actually in charge of.
Yes.
Our job is to integrate, is to basically educate the community, is to help the community. So we are the proactive arm of the fire brigade. We try to respond before the event to prevent the event from occurring. So our job is to prevent fires from starting.
Right.
So whatever it takes to actually get the community involved, to sensitize them, educate them, that's what my unit does. So once you call us, we will respond. We will come, we will do the training, we'll provide you with the information, we'll provide the guidance.
Got it. All right, we're in the last 5 seconds. Anything you'd like to say directly to the audience?
So one thing I want to say to the audience now, the Jamaica Fire Brigade is encouraging members to get smoke detectors inside your home, because these detectors will give you early warning. You can integrate them with your Alexa, you can integrate them with your Siri, you can integrate them with Google Home. They can notify you on your mobile devices that you have an emergency in your home, so you can respond appropriately. At nights when you're asleep, the fire will put you into a deeper sleep. These devices will make loud noises that will wake you and allow you to get out. In a fire, every minute counts. Install these devices in your home. It will protect you in the event of a fire.
Yeah, and if I could choose a single word to sum up everything that we've said, is prepare. You know, so this has been Get the Facts, and our guest was Deputy Commissioner in charge of fire prevention at the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Sean Martin. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for preparing and making sure that your homes and your businesses are fire ready, if I could say it that way. Until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.
Pedestrians, stay alert. Keep your head up and stay off the phone while crossing the road. Don't be a distracted walker. Every step matters. Look out before you step out. A message from the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport.
If there's one thing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic taught us, it is the importance of having a strong economic foundation to maintain consistency in the face of atrocity. And one sector that has been committed to building resilience is tourism. Learn more in this next feature.
The management of tourism takes into account upfront the shocks that could happen that could dislodge and dislocate the industry over a long period of time.
Resilience building and crisis management within the tourism sector is paramount, but even more so for countries like Jamaica, where much of our foreign income is dependent on this area. The fear of the COVID-19 virus is largely behind us, but we should never forget the stipulations it brought or the domino effects. It means that going forward, measures must be put in place to manage events such as these that threaten the sector. That is what the Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center is about, helping tourism stakeholders worldwide to prepare for, manage, and recover from crises that affect the sector. And the annual Global Tourism Conference put on by the Center brings together stakeholders to have this conversation.
When we all come together jointly as a group, we can come up with better ideas, better coordination, and a more seamless execution of strategies to ensure that the industry can withstand shocks.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett, the man behind the mission, has been championing the cause of mitigating against vulnerabilities to help strengthen the sector.
We must harness innovation, champion sustainability, and foster collaboration across all sectors to ensure that the next crisis, whatever form it takes, does not cripple our progress, but rather spurs our creativity and resolve.
At the 2025 Global Tourism Resilience Conference, the theme was Building Tourism Resilience Through Digital Transformation, bolstering conversations to this effect.
In the past few years, the quest to build resilience, digital technology and its allies, artificial intelligence, for example, and data analytics, have become part of the reservoir of knowledge and information that the Center has embraced and is enabling the development of toolkits and different forms of action that can enable those 5 touch points.
Touch points being developed by the Global Tourism Resilience and Crisis Management Center in the form of real-time data analytics to be able to monitor travel flows, consumer trends, and potential risks, and virtual engagements and marketing to offer immersive experiences that can keep destinations atop the mind, even during travel pauses.
And I give you an example. During COVID, we were able to have a virtual mass wedding at Laughing Waters in Ocho Rios, where I was the master of ceremony, and there was a minister, and we actually married 140 couples across the world and said to them, when COVID is over, come to Jamaica for your honeymoon.
Also involved is smart destination management, enhancing visitor experiences through digital ticketing, crowd management, and personalized itineraries that promote sustainability and authenticity. Crisis communication too, facilitating swift and clear communication with stakeholders, travelers, and local communities in times of crisis.
By weaving these digital tools into tourism strategies, we can foresee disruptions, respond effectively to crises, and ensure the continuity of this vital sector.
And it is going to take all hands on deck to make it happen.
We invite each and everyone from across the world to embrace the essence of tourism resilience, not just as a means of being able to track, mitigate, manage, recover, and thrive after disruptions, but as a means of ensuring sustainable development and growth.
The notion of resilience for us, it's not just one of the sexy catchphrases that from time to time gets introduced into our vocabulary. Resilience is an important, very important way of life, mindset of the government.
When you think of Jamaica, the first thing that comes to mind is the people. But what is it about us?
What makes us truly Jamaican?
Is it our warmth and hospitality? The way we greet each other with a simple wagwan or a bright smile? Maybe it's our resilience, our ability to find joy even in tough times. Or perhaps it's the unmistakable sound of patois connecting us, adding flavor to every conversation. Speaking of flavor, could it be our love for street food? The pan chicken sizzling on the grill, the soup men on the corner, the fruit vendors with their fresh, vibrant offerings?
Wait, I know you're excited, but what about our music, our dance moves, or rhythm that captivates the world?
We are storytellers, whether through folklore or everyday conversations. Being Jamaican is more than just a nationality. It's a feeling, a culture, a way of life. From the way we speak to the way we dance, cook, and connect, every part of our identity reflects our rich heritage and unstoppable spirit.
So what makes us truly Jamaican? It's everything. We are the culture, the energy, and the heartbeat of the island.
Social media is fun,
but it can also be unsafe.
To ensure our safety, we need to be smart. That's right. The first thing to know is that being on social media carries certain risks. So, being a smarty pants on these platforms will work in your favor.
Here are a few tips to keep in mind. Be careful about what you share. Know your audience by limiting who can see your posts. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Meeting people online can be exciting, but always stay cautious. Beware of catfishing.
To learn more about how to stay safe online, visit the Office of the Children's Advocate at www.welcome.oca.gov.jm.
Teachers, parents, and children alike,
stay smart, stay safe.
And with that, we've come to the end of today's show. To catch a repeat of this or any other, feel free to log on to our website, gis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.